Welcome back to the show. Today's topic: men, it's okay to be demanding. And it's one thing to be demanding, it's another thing to be needy. So, we're not going to get into the discussion as the what's the difference, but I definitely want to talk about men and the need for being demanding. And this goes along the line of setting standards and expectations and boundaries. But when we think of the word demanding, or when we say we should be more demanding, um, we kind of go right into as basic as it gets. Oh, I don't like pickles. I don't like attitudes. I don't like, which is fine. It's a form of being demanding, but for the at least presently, what that looks like is very it's a warped idea now. When you look at demanding, it's looked at someone that has high standards, or is has unrealistic expectations. So I mean, it's always good to have high standards, right? So, but it's that specific person, whether it can be a guy, but for the most part it's always attributed to women. But it's that kind of a-hole pickiness or demanding that, I mean, superstars have it, or celebrities have it, which is still stupid, but they have it. And you could kind of see it with them because they have the money to force that part of demanding out, the a-hole side of it, which in its essence, it has it, but it's still, an asshole move. So anyways, uh, when we hear it, when we hear about demanding or demanding more of whatever, we normally go into work, or we go into ourselves, kind of, uh, at least when it goes into demanding, as far as when like demanding more of yourself, or demanding more of yourself at work to get a promotion, or demanding more of your work, so you can, move on if they don't treat you a certain way, if you don't get certain things that you like. So it's always focused on that, like, oh, you have to be demanding with your, you know with yourself, and you have to be disciplined, and you have to be this and that, and at work you have to have all these, demands of yourself and your corporation and your teamwork and your team members and blah blah blah. And it's great, if there's one thing I think that I emphasize a lot about, is having an overall roundness about you, being all around self improvement, and try to focus in as many instances as you can. But when for whatever reason, when we think about demanding, it goes into those two areas. And even though I know that some, but not many, and not as many that are needed, or think of it as being demanding, or when we're thinking of how can I be more demanding in my life, we not again only a few take that demanding and apply it to their relationships with their friends, their families, and acquaintances. And I think I've beaten this horse enough. No, I haven't beaten this horse enough. Where the reason I'm emphasizing on this is because the number of men that enter an older age alone and depressed. Now, I wouldn't have a problem if if they were going into that adulthood and not feeling alone and not feeling depressed. Like I'm content with being single, and I'm content with being alone, which the numbers don't suggest that. So just the same way that women in at a much earlier age have that fear, where men entering their 70s and 80s have that age. So we all get our piece of that, or a taste of that medicine, if you would call it. It just, for women, they get it earlier, and they get to adapt to it earlier, which, like most. And then men towards the end have that same fear, because at the core of it, we're humans, and we want companionship. We want to share our experiences and share our lives. And sadly, with because there has been no proper discussion, or at least it hasn't been in the popular, culture, being spread around, as to how to be demanding with your friends, families, and acquaintances, to be able to have that quality of friendships and relationships with, your friends, families, and acquaintances, that is going to be that safety net. At the end of the day, we all die alone. We all take our last breaths alone. I know there's morbid exceptions. There's morbid exceptions to that, but for the most part, we close our eyes and we take our last breath by ourselves. But we want to maximize the people that are next to us as we move on to the unknown. You want to be able to, especially with men, you hear legacies and dynasties and all this stuff, which I don't put that much onus into it. But what you want to do is, like everything, is live your life to the best, and let that be your, what is it when it's not an allegory, your eulogy. Let that be the whispers that are said to you. And that's for the most part what history has done. The men and women, well, let's just say the men, for the sake of this show. Yes, though some romanticize, for the most part, they've just been doing their life, and people have taken an interest in it and then romanticized it and became popular, where we know about them now. But what we need to do is to teach men that it's okay to be demanding in these areas, and move pieces around to allow for new pieces to enter. And not that you're just going to throw relationships to the side and they're garbage and I don't need them no more. It's that you are, like I've said before, you're going to set those standards, boundaries, and you'll start putting your demands out there. And they're like I say, you're not gonna just push people out willy nilly. You're gonna demand and express your likes, dislikes, standards, boundaries, and acceptations, and whatnot. And then you allow people to react to that, to change to that, to see if they want to decide for themselves if you are worth their changing. And if they don't, you don't take it personal. You say, hey, this person, thank you for whatever, or not. I mean, I know I'm making it more cordial, but you shouldn't lose sleep over someone that is temporary and doesn't want to have an easy relationship with you, that they would rather have a complex, difficult relationship. Then that you could move those pieces around and put new pieces to just overall have that overall standard, the standard, the life you want, the friendships you want, the experience you want, and it starts from being demanding. So why should we be demanding? And I think I've already mentioned a few reasons why we should be demanding. Um, but because the alternative to not being demanding is to settle. And when we settle, we miss out on life and restrict our experiences and opportunity. And when we do that, look at the quality of life we're gonna have. I mean, just in that sentence and apply it to your life, and you'll be like, "Well, that would suck." If you would settle for not the car that you wanted, not the girlfriend that you wanted, not the house that you wanted, not the anything that you wanted, and I get it. That's how we've been programmed. Oh, we don't want, we can't always get what we want, and we settle. And I get that notion, and for the most part, it's I like the realistic aspect to it, but that's not the way we operate, and we don't just end up settling. We settle in some parts, and more than not, we settle in the important parts, and then we try to overachieve on the not so important parts. And that's when we have the regret later on in life, when you focus too much on the wrong things and not much on the important things, is when that becomes the great regret that you hear from people in their deathbeds. And that's why you don't want to settle, and you want to have a demand on your life. You want to have like the operating system requirements. Like, you just can't get any software and just put it in any computer. There has to be like the basic system running tools to be able to operate that software. And that's what has to have. You have to demand that of yourself. And is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be hard? Yes, absolutely. Everything that has a standard and a and a demand to it is going to be difficult. Um, it's going to be difficult. I mean, there's no way around it. I know the easy thing is to say, well, yeah, it's gonna be easy if you do this and that, but that's what's led to I don't want to bash on anybody, but the randomness and the popularity in certain topics in YouTube. It's because it's so randomized, and it's so everything sounds good, and you do this in 3 easy steps and you'll get this achievement. And it's gone on even before the internet, with the infomercials, as far as like that selling tactic. But just in normal day and day interactions with just people in normal life, I mean, we settle in those experiences. We just kind of go through the motions just to be able to move through the day, to get to whatever maybe pleasure or escape we can get to. So, for men especially, it's gonna feel weird when I say, well, I mean, it does feel weird when I tell men, like, it's okay to be demanding. And I'm gonna talk about it on my next podcast, about um, uh, men being okay with being spoiled. And and the reason I bring that up is just because of what I'm about to say, where I know it feels weird for men to be demanding. It's more of a female trait. Like, when you hear it, I want a man that makes 6 figures. I want a man that's so such tall, and does this and does that. We're used to the women doing that, and that is a woman. That's not a woman trait, but that's just what they've done more because of the position that they've been. So as we're moving into an area of equality, of equalness, then that standard of settling, and or men not being as demanding, has to change with it too. So we have to then start being okay with being demanding, even though it makes us feel weird, even though uh, it might make us uncomfortable. In this modern time, in this modern age, the fact of how women are where they are socially, economically, in various aspects, where to they're meeting and some instances exceeding us as males, we have to start then. And you hear it a lot, and I know people. Well, you hear it a lot depending on what you listen to, but like you know, thinking yourself a catch and all that stuff, like making yourself high value, which, I get it. I don't like the terminology, but I get the message. But that's what being a man and in this new 20, now 2021, happy new year, by the way, everyone. um it has to be something we have to feel comfortable, just because now we're stepping into equal footing. And we can't, when we think equal footing, we think, well, we can't, what do they want us to do? They want us to talk to them like equal, like if they're men, and da 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 da. And we attach that gender part to it, but that's a different thing. Like that's what at the core of it, what you want to do is, with this modern time, the way you're going to be demanding is like by having your standards and and boundaries. Why? Because now they have something to lose. They have something to lose or gain, and so do you. And it's coming together of assets to build an even stronger unit, which is a beautiful aspect of having women being on equal footing, but doesn't mean they have to be masculine, or they have to be a certain way. And no, I can't find them. All those women are really masculine. No, no, that's a whole different topic for a different show, as far as like men's unrealistic expectations, along with women's unrealistic expectations, where men are just as bad. And I find that humorous when I hear everybody about women's unrealistic expectations, but then when I hear the guys, I'm like, you're just as bad. So anyways, given modern times and the fact that women have their own stuff, and they were demanding before when they didn't have stuff, guess what, they might be passing us. So we have to have those demands on us, not just like I said in dating and everything. That's why they're outpacing us now, because they have high standards for their work, for the way they approach. They don't let things slide. They stand up for themselves, stuff men used to do in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Women are now doing it perfectly, and are reaping the reward of, yes, a favorable system that's turning to them, but justifiably so, because of the fact that how long they were without those abilities to reach them. But once once that becomes equal footing, as we're seeing it, we have to now put that same kind of demand on us, or and that demand on us to meet our requirements. That just has to be a must. And I know for ages we have been told, that men are simple, but the reality is that we aren't. Men aren't simple. We're just been told that we are, so we just become this brainless Neanderthal. Like, yeah, I just like food, sex, and that's it. Food, sex, sleep. Food, sex, sleep. And it's funny because at the core of it, I guess that's just true of anybody, even females, and just nature. That's all they do, which is funny, but the more that myth gets told, the more it seeps into our head. And we're really not that simple. We are really, complex, beings just as much as uh, women. We have our needs, our want, etc. But because society says no, that's a female trait. No, you can't do that. Only women could do that. We let ourselves just kind of, okay, yeah, we just want this. We're really basic. We're not that difficult, but yet the numbers show that we are that difficult. And yes, we are. Um, a little bit more complex than what society and stigmas lets people and us know, think or know about us. So the world demands the best of us. So, and that's fine. The women and everybody wants men to step up, and that's fine. But we will but and they'll get it. They'll get the what they demand from us, but we will demand the same of the world. And that's just where we are in life, where we are in evolution, where we are in this path of technology, in this era of technology, in this fast-paced environment. Men have to be able to rethink their approaches to work, and reconnect with that aspect of us, in our relationships and work, with our family, friends, and acquaintances, in our own moral ethic code and the way we move around. We get it. We demand a lot of ourselves. We demand a lot of our work. We should demand a lot from our friends, from our relationships, from our parents, from if they're still alive, brothers, sisters, cousins, whatever. Have a higher demand from it. Just not only, like I said, the point of this whole topic is to spotlight the fact that men have to have this higher, if you want, for explanation purposes, this siphoning of people and experiences and relationships, along with work and every other aspects, and put a higher demand in what you want, so that in the end of our existence, if you will, that we will have quality relationships. We will curb the depression and all this other stuff that plagues, yes, everyone, but it affects men unproportionately high. So we have to speak about it, and we have to start rethinking the male experience in 2021, where yes, it's fun, the memes, the snarky little quips, and we all get a chuckle. But I mean, we want everything else has changed. Why hasn't the male experience changed? Why is it the same old for men? Oh, they're just dumb, and everyone else has to be raised up. And like I said earlier, that's why women are outpacing men, is because they're acting like men used to act in this, earlier on, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and men have forgotten that. And oh, they like to bitch about it a lot or complain about it a lot now, and it's everywhere. And movements are being built around those. And again, I've said it before. I'm all about free speech, and there's a place for everything, because it sheds spotlight, and sometimes in weird areas. But instead of complaining about it, it's more about adapting. And we're now the odd man's out. Kids are adapting, women are adapting, and now sometimes our friends are adapting, and we are being left behind just because we have a narrow minded. We don't want to adapt. We think, with everyone else is out of touch, and we're not. So at the end of the day, we have to take ownership of our experiences in life, our direction in life. We can't control all things, but we should take a honest approach into controlling what we can, so we give ourselves the maximum percentage of having every aspect of our lives being met, that in a level that is going to have us in the best state of financially, emotionally, spiritually, and have people that truly, truly want to be there with you in the journey. So I hope I made you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for listening. Subscribe to the channel. Again, thank you guys for listening. Good night.